Hey guys, this is Steve Springer at Quality at Bats Academy. What's going on? Got my boy Mark on vacation in Mexico, so I thought I'd do a little interview today with the CEO and co-founder of fieldlevel, Brenton Sullivan. And if you've never heard of fieldlevel, I think you're going to love this interview because I just found out about them at the ABCA, and I've never heard of them, which is probably my bad, but I ended up meeting these guys. Went down to San Diego, and I just thought it was awesome. And we got Brenton on the line right now, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Good to have you, buddy. I want you to tell me your story. Let our Academy members know, what is fieldlevel. But first, I want to know about your background, your career, your playing career, how all this started. So go ahead.
Sure. Well, I actually went to a small high school, a boarding school called Thatcher, up in the Ojai Valley, a little bit inland from Ventura, and originally from the Bay Area. Grew up in Berkeley, and so I'm at a boarding school, about 240 total students, and we had some pretty good athletes in our class. And so as time went on, our baseball team started to get better and better, and had some success there. Ended up going to the CIF championship. We lost in the championship, but my junior year, and had a really great run in my junior and senior year. And I started getting interested in going off and playing sports at the next level, and really was trying to figure out how to do it, and was talking to my coaches, and my coaches were like father figures, as they often are, and was talking to them about, so what's this process like? How do I work this? And being at a boarding school and sort of being off on your own, I sort of just struggled through the process, try to figure it out, and had a couple opportunities to go play basketball in college, and baseball. I just wasn't really able to go to a bunch of camps or showcases or anything like that. Ended up getting into USC for academics, and ultimately ended up walking on to the USC baseball team as a catcher, backup catcher.
What year was that?
That was 2003. And Coach Mike Gillespie was there, and I basically was a bullpen catcher, and had an amazing time doing it, and would never take back a second of any of that time. But one of the things that happened was my junior, senior year, I'm in the undergraduate business program there, and I get into an entrepreneurial class. I really was interested in starting businesses and figuring out how that whole process worked. And I had a couple of speakers that came in that said, look, the best businesses are started out of personal pain, people that have gone through a situation, and they're really passionate about fixing it. And instantly my recruitment popped into my mind to sort of say, man, my recruitment was just such a struggle. And though I was at SC and a backup catcher, it was not the right place for me to actually go and play, because I didn't play. And that's something that I think if I had known what recruitment was like, and had known about the process, I would have targeted schools where I could have gone in and started playing, or at least by sophomore, junior year, been a mainstay on a team, and had that experience. And so that was a very painful process for me. And ultimately I wrote a business plan around what it would look like to have a network where my high school coaches could have gone to bat for me, and basically created introductions. Because the recruitment process back then, much like today, was very random. Why do some athletes get noticed and some don't? What is it? All these athletes are developing and growing at different times. And there's this sort of, you're sort of walking the plank. When you get to the end of your senior year, you're figuring out like, okay, well, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And really difficult for me. But ultimately ended up writing a business plan when I was at SC. He won an award for the best business plan in the Lloyd Greif Entrepreneurial Center, and went and worked for a year as a director of operations at USC to sort of refine the concept and really entrench myself in this industry. And a year after that, launched Fieldlevel, and here we are, basically 8 years later. And Fieldlevel is an athletic network where coaches and athletes connect to discover, create, and pursue opportunities at the next level.
Well, I think you hit it right in the nose, man. When something happens to you in life, uh, like, the recruiting process for you when you were in high school, it really, really, resonates to me because I got the same thing with baseball and learning the mental side, beating myself up, for so many years, letting the mind get in the way of my ability. And it's the same thing what you just told me. I mean, you're trying to help people.
Yeah.
And I figured out a long time ago, when I try to help people, I make money. When I try to make money, I don't make money. So it's like when you help people, man, it's not only about the money, it's about just the gratification of helping a kid. And when I met you guys, I like I said, I hadn't heard of you. You guys have heard of me a little bit, and I have coffee with this guy every day. He's got a kid in high school who was hurt. And all of a sudden I said, "You ever heard of field level?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've heard of it, but my son Luke doesn't have a profile." And I said, "You might want to get one." And I'm telling you, within 4 days, he had so many like looks and offers. He had two Division I offers, one Division I offer and a Division II offer, and he ended up taking a scholarship at St. Mary's University.
Wow.
And right then, I was a believer on you guys, and that's how quickly it happened. And I'm not going to say it's going to happen that quickly for everybody, but just the fact that it did was really impressive for me.
Yeah. Well, field level, the way that field level is unique from any other sort of, I guess you'd say, sort of recruiting resource out there, is that it really gets down to the core. As an athlete, when you sign up, in order to have an active profile on the platform, on the network, you basically need to have a coach reference. And so, let's say I'm an athlete, I sign up. The first thing that it's telling me is, okay, do you have any coach references that are going to be supportive and become your advocates throughout this process? And the reason why we do that is because ultimately it's about the college coaches. The college coaches, as much as they want to hear from the athletes or the athletes' parents about how great the kid is, what they're really going to do when they find an athlete is go right to their coaches and say, "Okay, tell me about them." And I saw some things out there on the field, or I'm hearing some things. What do you see? And the reason why they're going to these athletes' coaches is because the coaches are part of this community. Field level is not an athletic network, but there's a coach network within the platform that allows coaches to connect with each other. And so your friend and his son, my guess is that when he signed up, he roped on his coach, and his coach has some credibility and is a trustworthy, you know, member of this coach community, and probably got in there, wrote an assessment about his athlete. Those assessments are private. They can only be seen by colleges, which college coaches love because the high school coaches are able to be honest, and it's the best way for everyone for that to work like that.
So the
And
kid doesn't know what the high school coach wrote.
no, I mean, if the high school coach wants to show them, they can. And I'd say that the majority of the time, high school coaches are there to help their athletes. Just the same way
Right.
where if you're going to apply to college and you go to your physics teacher and say, "Hey, I'm getting good grades in your class. You seem to really like me. Would you mind, filling out being my reference and giving me, helping me with my application?" And
Right.
those teachers will go in there and write some things. Sometimes they go show the students, sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, they're able to be honest, and that's what's really important, because then the right athletes get found by the right schools. And that's ultimately our goal here. Is if an athlete comes on and ends up going to a D1 school like me and then doesn't play, or has to bounce back to some 2-year school for a year and then go to another school, or tries to transfer because they really want to play, that's one of the worst experiences you can have. And so we're trying to
Right.
make sure that we guard people from getting into that situation. And it's all about being honest and finding the right schools and being honest with yourself. Hey, what do I want to do? What do I want to use athletics for? And how do I want this to be part of my life? Is it something that I want to go pro, I want to go all the way, or is it something that I want to use it to help me with admissions to a school, help pay for school? The camaraderie you get with playing with guys and ultimately going off and forming meaningful relationships with people. I mean, that's what sports is all about. And, field level is, allows that to happen at a faster rate and a more successful rate, because we're involving the right coaches and we've put the right rules and mechanisms in place within the network to make sure that people aren't being spammed or don't get sort of, um, you know, I guess, blurred out by all the noise. We want to make sure that our
Right.
system is very pure.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, man. I mean, I've spoken, all over the country to some of the greatest D3 programs. Like, I didn't even know they were there. Like, I spoke in like Northwest Arkansas, Southwest Oklahoma. Like, where is that?
Sure.
And I'm like, but they had a great program. And I think if kids realize that it's okay to go play D2, D3, NAIA, even if it was a JC. And, if it wasn't for JC baseball, I wouldn't have had a career.
Sure.
Because I wasn't ready to go play at a D1. And I just feel I love what you guys are doing with the connections. I remember when I met you guys, and yeah, we were having a couple of adult beverages, but there was like hundreds of coaches in there that you guys knew personally. And that was just like an awakening for me that these guys are legit. And I just think it's cool that you're helping kids, and when you get the fact, if these kids could realize that not everybody's a D1, and like you said, go to college, meet your wife, get the camaraderie of a teammate, and have fun. I would rather play at a D2 than sit the bench at a Division I, personally.
Well, and you mentioned us, seeing you, meeting you at the ABCA conference in Indianapolis. The interesting thing about that is that we have these relationships with these coaches, and we see them at these conferences, which is great. But oftentimes they'll just see the logo, the field level logo, and there's something about ownership that coaches have over this network because they're part of it. And the way that we've grown, the way that we started was actually at the JUCO ranks, or community college, as they call them in California. And we were helping community college, 2-year college coaches place the athletes that were really tough to place, which was oftentimes the D2 NAI athlete that couldn't find a spot in California. But over in Indiana or Oklahoma, they're going, eyes are wide, going, wow, there's some California, Arizona 2-year talent that wants to come out here. Like, absolutely. And the way that we evolved the platform was really listening to the coaches and getting their feedback and making sure that when we were going to make a drastic change to the network, that the coaches were going to be a part of it. And so we take in a lot of feedback. So when we're at these ABCA conferences, we sit down with coaches and I just tell them, like, hey, tell me what's working, tell me what's not. And what's nice about that is that they can be honest and they can tell us, like, hey, you guys are screwing up here. Hey, this is fantastic. You really need to lean into this. And then they know that we'll come back, and 2 weeks later, they'll get an email from us saying, hey, we wanted to follow up on that point. This is kind of what we're thinking about it. Give us some feedback. Is this the right direction? Or, hey, you told us that this was really great. We're going to evolve it this way. Would you mind being one of those test users and helping us do that? And so that's often a fun part of going to these conferences and talking to coaches, that they know they're being heard.
What percentage of high school coaches do you think that know who field level is? Like, what if I'm a kid that wants to get a profile, but my high school coach doesn't know about you guys?
That's interesting. If the high school coach doesn't know about us, then really what it's about is it's about, an athlete oftentimes has the desire. They're saying, look, I want to go play at the next level. And so when they get on, we're basically saying, okay, you need to rope on your references. And that's the moment when they're going to go on and say, okay, I'd like to invite this coach that I play at my high school coach. I'd like to invite, my summer ball coach. I'd like to invite my club coach from 2 years ago that really liked me. And all
So
this.
it's possible for the kid to introduce the coach, if he's never heard of you, to you guys by bringing it up to him to write a quick profile for him.
It happens like that often. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
an athlete will get on there and invite a coach. Next thing you know, the coach is saying, hey, this is fantastic. I have over 70 connections with college coaches. I reconnected with old teammates. I reconnected with guys that I, hadn't talked to in 10 years. Next thing you know, they're connecting with me on field level. Now we're having calls and I'm telling them about players. And even if my player's not great for them, they'll say, hey, you know what? That's probably not a fit for us right now because we're sort of stacked at that position, but check out this school. This program's great. I'll create an introduction to you. And next thing you know, they're all working. So yeah, oftentimes athletes do introduce their coaches, but the coaches quickly take on the ownership themselves and then start filling out their roster of any athletes that are interested going to the next level.
I love it. I love it. What about other sports? Like, we're dabbling in softball right now because I believe hitting's hitting. You guys have a softball program also?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do. We're,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're in 10 sports right now. We're in um, 5 men's, 5 women's. So I'll rattle them off quickly. We got baseball, football, basketball, men's lacrosse, and men's soccer. And then on the women's side, we have volleyball, women's basketball, softball, women's soccer, and women's lacrosse. So 10 sports. Baseball was the first network that we launched. And what we found was that as much as you think sports are different from recruitment, at the end of the day, the only differences are sort of the quantitative measures. And so, like in baseball, we run the 60. In football, you run the 40. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be a coach saying, this is going to be a fabulous addition to your team. Check out this athlete's leadership skills. This athlete's got the drive, got the passion. Let me talk about some of those intangibles. There are a lot of things, especially at the high school level. You talk about sort of the qualitative aspects of sports versus the quantitative aspects of sports, sort of, the fluffy stuff, the stuff that the numbers don't talk about, oftentimes tells a deeper story. And so you think about an athlete that's in there that's, really busting. Let's take basketball, for instance. There's athletes out there that have, 8 rebounds a game, but the coach will say, like, this guy, alters shots, doesn't block shots, but just is constantly out there and constantly making great positions, setting back picks. One of those guys is just, muscling down low and makes our team better in every aspect of the game, is a leadership guy. One of those guys is going to lead in the weight room. They'll talk about a lot of that, and you'll never be able to figure that out in the stats. You'll go like, okay, this guy, scored 5 points and, had a block and, 8 rebounds. Hey, that's great. But really, this was the best player on the floor. And
Right.
Watching that game, which college coaches don't have time to watch every single game, what they're really relying on is the opinion and the reference for the coaches.
Well, I believe that, hopefully these high school coaches, and I'm sure they do, that they realize the accountability level that they have to be right on their evaluations, and you can't really, all of a sudden you start, making somebody out to be the next, Mike Trout, and he's, shouldn't even be playing. He loses credibility. So what's the accountability level that you guys try to, talk to the coaches about and just make, not that they have to be perfect, because not everybody's perfect, but there's got to be a little bit of accountability on the coach's side to write a good, honest report to save their credibility when another college coach wants to, see one of their players.
It's a good question. The high school coaches, what we hear the most from them is, what do college coaches want to know? Help me give them the right type of information. And what we tell them is, be honest, and we'll show them, examples of great, assessments. But really, what makes Field Level unique is that the coach there has years and years of athletes that are going to be coming through their school. It's not just about one athlete. And hey, how can I make sure that I get this one athlete placed at the top school possible? Because what they know is, I'm going to have to do this again next year. And if I burn a guy, there's no way they're going to come back to me and be like, yeah, hey, you sent me that athlete and he's been riding my bench and I used up a scholarship on him. And they're not going to come back and say, hey, what else you got? And so
Right.
the high school coaches know that. And so there's this sort of community pressure that helps people act the right way. And even when you get into clubs, I'd say that clubs, you start to introduce money. Well, now the parents are paying for a club program, and they're paying for a couple of things. They're paying for, skill development, for access to tournaments, but they're also paying for that coach to help with the recruitment process and to help them get to the next level. And so all of a sudden there's this additional pressure that's there. But even the club programs that are on our platform, they still know that they have a reputation and that they're forming real relationships with people. I mean, they're not able to hide behind some sort of logo or anything. It's them. And so there's 2 ways that you can get discovered on Field Level. The first is college coaches can get on there and can just go search. So they're saying, okay, I'm looking for 2-year, 2-year pitchers, left-handed pitchers in California, Arizona, and Nevada. I want to check that out. And like, okay, up come, a couple hundred athletes, okay, or 50 athletes. Great. I'm able to click in there, read their coach's assessment, watch some video, look at the athletes' transcripts, look at the athletes' honors and achievements. The athletes are writing in some things about themselves. They say, okay, great. Maybe they'll message that coach and say, hey, tell me a little bit more about this athlete. Do you think he'd be interested in coming up to Washington, or coming down south? So that's one way you get discovered, is actually the college is going out and finding you. The second way is that there's actually a proactive side where the high school coach is able to create an introduction to a college program. And that's called a promotion on Field Level's platform. And so what the high school coach or club coach or 2-year college coach is able to do is able to say, okay, I have a profile of an athlete and I'd like to then go promote them to my connections on Field Level. And basically saying, like, I think this guy would be a great fit for your program. He's still available. Here are his skills. You can read my assessment. Hit me back if you have any questions. Happy to get this going. And so because these coaches are coming onto Field Level and are feeling like, wow, there's a lot of value here for me. I'm able to connect with colleges. I'm able to introduce my athletes. I'm able to collaborate with my athletes around, which schools they want to go to. It's really a one-stop shop for these high school coaches and club coaches to start figuring out recruitment. And so it's there is some pressure, to be honest, and we think it's healthy pressure.
Wow, I think it's such a great, just by listening to you talk, because in my mind doing this interview, I'm thinking more of the player, but this is helping coaches. This is helping the network of just baseball. I feel that most coaches are in it for the right reason, to help kids. And if they're going to help kids and they really, really want to help kids, and now they could give them a recommendation to another college with you guys, I just think that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that there have been a lot of coaches on our platform that have actually gone off and gotten jobs. And
yeah,
we had a baseball coach that was at a community college, really was using Field Level well, placed athletes all over the country. Then all of a sudden got some looks from a D1 program saying, look, you're developing these athletes, and we've recruited a couple of your guys and they're killing it for us. How would you think about coming on and being an assistant coach here?
Yeah,
and coach has gone on to a number of Division I programs and been there. And I feel like what our system did was just allow people to see his talent, and that's great. That's fantastic for us. We want coaches to be able to, just like athletes, where they're trying to find the best opportunities and pursue them and open up opportunities. We're doing the same for coaches, and that's it's part of the reason we're doing it.
Buddy, I love it, man. I love it. I'm glad we did this interview finally. And in closing, I'm a kid listening to this thing right now. What's the first thing I do? And then now I'm a coach listening to this. What's the first thing I do?
You go to fieldlevel.com, and there's a join button. You click it. It's going to take you through a couple steps through onboarding. It's going to land you right on your dashboard, and it's going to tell you what to do next. For a high school coach, it's going to say, look, there's 2 things you can do. You go start connecting with college coaches on the network. And there's great suggestions in there that help you, as you fill out your background and as you start to look at things, you're going to be able to start connecting with the right types of colleges, and colleges are going to start connecting with you as well. And then you add athletes. You basically invite those athletes to create profiles. You send them a link, and the athlete is able to join, and you collaborate around building their profiles. And so that's what you do as a high school coach. As an athlete, you can also do the same thing. Go to fieldlevel.com. You sign up. Right when you land on your dashboard, it's going to say, okay, great. You're going to start connecting with your advocates, your coaches. You want to join your teams. As you're going to go through the process of joining your high school team, joining your club team. Maybe you play on multiple club teams. That's great. And then you're going to build out your profile. We're going to help you get set up to make sure that when a college coach does come across your profile, sometimes you only get one shot. And Mike Gillespie, my coach at SC, he used to say, you never know who's watching. And that always stuck with me. And we try to tell the athletes the same thing. Look, take pride in your profile. Take pride in the videos that you put up there, and make sure that you're acting right all the time, because you never know who's watching. And also your high school coach, he's going to look at you and say, wow, this athlete's actually making some real strides to make sure this profile looks good. I'm going to go to bat for him, and I'm going to go do some work for him. And so we'll help you get that exposure.
Well, you hit it right on the nose, because you don't know who's watching. I mean, I don't get drafted if I wasn't playing against 3 guys in another team with 50 scouts in the stands. They had no idea who I was. And I went 5 for 5 with a bomb, 2 doubles, and 5 RBIs. and I get drafted by the New York Mets. I've been in pro baseball for 35 years.
Love it.
So, yeah, buddy, I love it too, man. I really appreciate this talk, man. I look forward to a good relationship with you guys, and I know that we're going to have some sort of discount for anybody that shows up there coming from my academy, and we'll get that out also. But I appreciate it, man, and let's stay in touch, Brendan. Anything we can do to help you, man, we will.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'll post a discount code on there for anyone that's listening to this. The way that Field Level, the way that Field Level actually makes money is that there's a premium part of Field Level for the athletes. And when you upgrade to premium, it gives you additional tools for every step of your journey. And so if you're looking for exposure, or if you're looking to find the right types of colleges, our system actually goes to work for you and gives you recommendations on, hey, these are the schools that we think would be a great fit based on everything that we know about what you want, based on what we know that colleges want. We're creating some matches there. We're also giving you additional tools to get more exposure. Maybe your high school coach doesn't have, that large of a network yet, and that happens. Well, we allow them to go outside of their network when they're doing promotions and being proactive. We allow the athletes to write letters of interest to schools that they're targeting. And so there are a number of really great tools that come on with premium, not, ultimately not required. We don't want to make it so that it's a pay to play type of thing, but really does enhance the ability of getting in front of the right schools and getting you out there. So we'll make sure there's a discount code that comes along with this.
Well, I know. I mean, I'm in the same thing. I mean, we spend thousands of dollars on hitting lessons and doing flips and tee work, and really we got something like this to add value and possibly get you some sort of scholarship, and I'm in, buddy, and I love it, and good luck, and let's stay in touch. All right.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us on.
Okay, bro. See ya.
Have a good one.